Hello, everyone, and welcome to UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts. I am Blaine Gilmer here with Jed May once again, and we're here to cover everything and all things Georgia football recruiting related. You can probably hear the voice is not that strong a little tonight, Jed, so I might need you to put the team on your back, so to speak. Help us out here tonight. But Jed, how you doing, man?
Good, man. Pollen happens. Pollen happens to everybody. It's like, to paraphrase Forrest Gump, pollen happens. So
Yeah.
we're here for it.
Nice little paraphrase there. But we for sure have a lot to cover, including a commitment today for the University of Georgia. Justyn Rhett, who was formerly committed to Notre Dame, commits to the University of Georgia. He actually decommitted while he was on his visit, an official visit, as it turns out, to Athens. And, you know, within a couple hours of being in the Classic City on that official visit, right when kickoff's about to take off, it comes out that, Justyn Rhett has decommitted from Notre Dame, and didn't take long for us to start getting whispers that it looked like Georgia was going to be the spot. And here's our man Trent joining us. Trent, we're just talking about Justyn Rhett, man, the commit today. How you doing, Trent? Trent, can you hear us? All right. Trent may not be able to hear us, but we're going to keep talking about Justyn Rhett, the commit. So, Jed, obviously it looked like that was going to happen for a while. We were just waiting on them to pull the trigger, and they did today. So, Justyn Rhett, newest Georgia Bulldog commit in the class of 2023.
Yeah, spoiler alert, I'm waiting on a call from Mr. Rhett as we speak, so I might be dropping out here in a minute. But yeah, wasn't necessarily a shock to see him in Athens for G-Day on its face, but like you said, as soon as the decommitment happens while you're in Athens on an official visit, that really raises your eyebrows, and started looking around. And like you said, it didn't take long to sort of appear that Georgia was the favorite, and here we are 9 days later. He drops it in the middle of the day, just like Gabriel Harris, right in the middle of the day. So it's a big boost for the secondary, because we've talked about, the board has kind of been shifting with Fran Brown coming on, and there's new names like Daniel Harris, Robert Stafford. Georgia's in on Dejon Johnson as well. And then Justyn Rhett kind of came. It all happened very quickly, where, like you said, he comes on an official visit, and pretty much a week later, he's in red and black. So big pickup in the 23 class. Basically, he's number 53 in the nation, I think. So basically a top 50 player.
Absolutely. Trent, can you hear us now? You good, man?
Yeah, I got you.
All right. Well, welcome in, man. We're just talking here about Justyn Rhett. I know that you've been working on a film breakdown and stuff like that. What do you see out of the game of the former Notre Dame commit, now Georgia commit?
Just excellent ball skills. He's got, he's a man-to-man corner, can, play zone too in his film, but just he's physical. He's a Kirby Smart type of corner. He doesn't shy away from contact, and just an excellent playmaker. Kirby's looking for them guys that are playmakers. Oftentimes wide receivers in high school as well, but and Rhett is, he fits that same mold. So just a big pickup. I don't, what is he ranked, the number 5 or 6 corner in the class? I don't even know, but just after number 7 corner in the class. So just after what they hauled in last year, and to be able to land a caliber cornerback like that from across the country this early in the process is a big pickup.
Yeah, and you continue to see Georgia, and we've even got a question on this to start off with, so we'll get into it a little bit. But Georgia continues, Trent and Jed, just to not be scared of going out and getting guys that they want across the country. You've seen, on the offensive side of the ball, Darnell Washington and Keely Ringo from out in Arizona, and then on defense, and then Brock Bowers another year after that. So I mean, they're not afraid to go out west, and of course, Red is from Las Vegas, Nevada. So Jed, that's just something that you see this Georgia staff, they're willing to go anywhere, wherever the talent leads them.
Well, and Kendall Milton too, another California guy.
Kendall Milton for sure.
Out there, and it's one of those things where you start building this brand the way Kirby Smart has done over these 5 or 6 years, or 6 or 7 now. He's been in Athens, and you can take that brand anywhere, and that's only going to increase now with the national championship. dude, I mean, you keep playing in these games that have these huge exposure and everybody watches you. I mean, I've talked to several kids, and you ask them, yeah, how much did you watch Georgia last year? It's like, well, I really only watched them in the playoffs. Like, those games matter for recruiting, just playing in a number one and obviously winning in the way Georgia's done. So, yeah, I mean, it's the national train is really starting to roll when it comes to Georgia recruiting, and I don't expect it to slow down.
You saw the same type of exposure after they played in the Rose Bowl from these
Mhm.
California guys, and it's only built up from there. You landed Kendall Milton after that, and you're starting to be a get your name in Texas, California, and there with Fran Brown in town, you're only going to go up to the up towards Maryland and all those states, start having a lot of success there, and they've already had success there. So, yeah, I mean the national brand's there now, and Kirby Smart's just gonna keep going after these top guys, and keep landing his handful of guys.
And of course, they've already had a ton of success, in the last few years out of the state of Florida, even so in the state of Louisiana. Sean Washington comes in, and Patrick Garvin put this out for us. Sean Washington made the fifth guy in Kirby Smart's tenure to be signed by Georgia. I believe since 1939, between 1939 and when Kirby Smart was hired, they signed a total of 4 guys from Louisiana. So it's not just out west. It's, going into LSU territory, making sure you take care of some of those guys from Florida, Miami, and Florida State's territory, which, Billy Napier and Mario Cristobal are trying to make that harder these days. But Georgia's definitely able to go in there, and they have that. The brand has been strong, but now with the national championship on top of it, you feel like if you're a Georgia, and Jim Donnan says this all the time. He said this going in before Georgia ever won the national championship, that if you walk into a kid's living room with the G on your chest, you already got a leg up in recruiting. So it feels like, those guys definitely are very selective, because a lot of times, Jed, it'll be a case, and we're going to talk about this with the first questions. I don't want to jump it too much, but we'll see that some of these guys in the state of Georgia or in close proximity in the Southeast, maybe that Georgia doesn't target heavily early on, and some people will be like, why? But they're very selective in who those offers go out to and when.
Yeah, and this is something Trent talked about either last week or week before. It's they want to give these in-state guys chances to come to Athens and camp and get offers. I mean, we've seen that with Jamarian Wilcox has said that. Jalen Kilgore is another guy in his class that said that. Ian Jaffrard, another guy, an offensive lineman, who's been in town a couple of times. So I think this staff, and Trent, you've done this obviously longer than I have, so feel free to weigh in too. But it seems like this staff does a really good job of maintaining these relationships with all these high school staffs, even when there's not necessarily star prospects at these schools. I mean, in that January contact period, I mean, it seemed like they were at every high school in Georgia, and we'd be looking up, such and such high school. It's like, there's not really any star prospects there. It's just a relationship maintaining trip. So it seems like this Georgia staff does a good job of keeping those bonds pretty strong with these high school guys.
That's one big thing I noticed when Kirby came, to Athens is, during that January period, and and during the spring evaluation period, that they're not only going out and visiting, prospects that you have any idea who they are. They're going out and visiting these high school coaches, like you said, and they're just building relationships, because one day you're going to need that relationship, and that is one of the reasons why they build these relationships on the recruiting trail. And now you play the transfer portal. If I finish number 2 for a guy, hey, it might be a win in the end. So let's keep on him, and keep that relationship good. Like your Travis Hunter or your guys like that you want to keep that relationship there in case, hey, if he hits the portal, he's going to be the first person I call. So I'm going to keep that relationship there. And they've done a great job with relationships. And that's one big thing that Kirby builds this recruiting success off, is just pure relationships.
No doubt. And we're going to have questions that kind of dovetail into all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to, us to expound too far before we get into those questions. But other than the Justyn Rhett commitment, guys, really it's just coaches out on the trail right now. Coach Uzo Deribe was in Texas today visiting, guys all over. I believe you learned that Del McGee. Where was Del McGee, Jed, that you found out with Abrams?
Oh man,
Not
this
sure.
is
We're
the case
not
of a
sure. We're
guy not doing his homework before he got on the show. But yeah, he was in Florida. He actually extended an offer to this
in
kid
Florida. I got you.
in Florida. His name is Tawaski Abrams, out
Yeah,
of
class of
Lehigh Acres,
2024.
Florida, which is, I believe, is where Richard Young is. I don't think it's the same high school, but the same area that Richard
No,
Young is from.
yeah, same area for
So,
sure.
kids listed as a receiver, I think they might be looking at him as a defensive back. He ran a 10.6 in the 100 earlier this year, so he's got some good speed. Not quite Anthony Evans speed, but good speed nonetheless.
Yeah, that's another piece of news we can touch on. Anthony Evans decommitted from Arkansas. Got in touch with Anthony. You know, he's been building a relationship with Brian McClendon. The two are talking every day on a daily basis. They're talking, have been for quite a while now. And when it comes to Anthony Evans, he can just absolutely fly a trend. It's that difference making type speed, 10.27 in the 100-meter. Decommitted from Arkansas, has his official visit set for Georgia June 10th. So it seems like Anthony Evans is right up there at the very top of the receivers that Georgia is pursuing right now.
Yeah, we talked before. You bring in these speedsters, and Anthony Evans is outstanding watching this film. But you bring in all these speedsters, and 2 or 3 of them are going to work out, and that's what Alabama's done. They've built that roster with just pure speed, and you'll have 2 or 3 of them work out where they first round picks, second round picks. So you keep building this roster with athletes like Evans. If you could land him or Arian Smith and guys like that, some of these guys are going to hit, and some of these guys are going to hit big. So, I think Anthony Evans is another big time target in this class, and that McClendon's going after hard.
Yeah, and another guy that is lighting it up in the track and field world is Christopher Johnson out of Florida. He got an offer from Fran Brown. He's listed as a running back in the class of 2023, but he got an offer from Fran Brown and was in communication with Will Muschamp. So Georgia is recruiting him as a defensive back. And he's going to be visiting soon. He did also mention that Fran Brown is going to be down around his high school in Florida on May 5th and 6th, I believe. So look for Fran Brown to be making a Florida swing. He's got all those relationships down there that he's got to kind of keep up with. So definitely a lot going on for these Georgia coaches. But guys, without further ado, let's say we get to the questions here. Jed, this is going to be a 2-parter. I'm going to have to switch it over. NY Dog 34 posted one so long I had to put it as a YouTube comment. So go ahead and read that off for us.
Yeah, here we go. First part: building upon Justyn Rhett's commitment and seeing Georgia increasingly recruit kids successfully on a national level, is there potential backlash from athletes, coaches, or trainers within the state if there are growing perceptions that UGA isn't prioritizing athletes from Georgia as much as we have in the past?
Yeah, I don't think you got to worry about that. Like Trent said, I think that Kirby Smart, being a guy who's so familiar with the high school landscape, not only from his time at Alabama, because don't forget Alabama recruited Georgia really hard when Kirby Smart was there as well. So I believe that Georgia's going to be just fine. It's just about, where does the talent lie? I think in the class of 2024, you're going to see Georgia be a lot more state of Georgia heavy than they are this class.
Yeah,
there's a ton of
I look at that. There is going to, at times, there's going to be some hurt feelings, or there's going to be some last minute decisions, business decisions, and but at the end of the day, that Kirby's relationships that he's built, he's been building since back in his LSU days, or before that, is what
he was the running back coach at Georgia in 2005.
Yeah. So I mean, he's been building these relationships for many, many years, and at times you have to make those business decisions, or there might be some state of Georgia coaches that don't understand why so and so is being prioritized by Alabama but not by Georgia. But at the end of the day, he still has those relationships, and he's still going to have success in the state of Georgia. But when you're recruiting at this kind of level, Sometimes you got to go outside the state and land what you need to win championships, because ultimately that's what Kirby's got to do, is win championships, and he knows that.
Jed, I think you were about to say, the state of Alabama this year is just chock full of talent, whereas next year Georgia looks to be really, really strong.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where, like Trent said, Kirby's got to get the guys into the program that are going to win championships, and whether it's this year where it's very Alabama heavy, or next year. I mean, you look at Georgia next year. There's Daniel Calhoun, Sammy Brown, KJ Bolden. I don't know. They're just those guys off the top of my head. I know I'm missing a whole lot, but the point is, like you said, Blaine, the state of Georgia next year looks like a really deep and talented class. So next year, it's like you said, you maintain these relationships, whether there's star prospects at people's schools or not, and then they come in handy in a year like 2024 when the state's just super deep.
And what you got to understand is a lot of these high school coaches are looking to advance to the next level too. So, that relationship with guys like Kirby is, could be a building block move, in their future. So,
just look at Smoke Bowie's coach. It literally got to go with him to Texas A&M. Yep. So who knows what is? It's amazing how that stuff happens. Just goes right with him. But anyways, moving on from that. Well, Jed, we'll go to one of your favorite questioners here.
PA Dog 610. With the amount of juniors and seniors on the defensive line, does this seem like a position of need for the 23 class? And how many prospects do we add?
Yeah, so when you're talking about defensive line, you got to combine that with interior and edge. And I think when you're talking about edge prospects, you're going to have, at least 3 to 4, probably 4, because of, like losing a Nolan Smith, losing a Robert Beal, just that in itself, the amount of experience. And then who knows, there could be some other guys burst onto the scene. You never know with the portal and how that's going to transpire, but Georgia's definitely going to go for 3 or 4 there. And I would imagine, Jed, at least 2, maybe 3 on the interior. So you're talking a total, anywhere from 6 to 7 up front.
Yeah, because it seems like they would want another guy in the Bear Alexander type mold of the big guy in the middle, which right now they've got
Jarrett.
Jamal Jarrett, exactly. So then you look at, guys more in that Kristen Miller mold. There's Vic Burley out there. There's Caden McDonald's out there. Stephylan Green is out there. Justin Benton is out there still. So there's plenty of options. But yeah, like you said, I think you could even break it down farther into the Jamal Jarrett category. Like he gets a category of his own, and then you break it out into more of those 3 tech guys, where there's Burley and Green and Benton, those kind of guys.
Yeah, Trent, what are your thoughts on defensive line in the class 2023?
Yeah, I think you're going to bring in, just from what they brought in the past couple classes, I think you're going to look at that 3 to 4 or 5, number. But at the same time, I think you concentrate more landing your edge guys. There's just not many defense linemen that play at the same time for Georgia. So when you're filling that class with 3 or 4 every year, you really are building that depth. But at the same time, you want to keep building it with 3 or 4 guys in this class. But you're only going to see 2 or 3 of those guys on the field at the same time. So the key is just continue loading up that depth each class. But I don't think they're going to take a large amount of number this year just because of the juniors, seniors, because I think they have sophomores and freshmen in there that are going to, be forces to be reckoned with in the next year or so.
Yeah, you look at it now, they've got, Gabriel Harris is committed. We feel like Georgia's in a good place with Tamar and Parker, both those guys being edge guys, and they're still heavily recruiting big baby Jordan Hall down out of Jacksonville, Florida, Jamal Jarrett. They're recruiting all those guys heavily. So, even if they just landed the tippy top prospects up there, that would be one thing. James Smith, another one out of Carver. So, that's 5 right there. And you just, the way recruiting works, it's very doubtful they'll go 5 for 5. So, and then the question becomes, okay, how far down do they go? They've got interests, like I believe Jed mentioned, in Stefan Green out of Rome, who's a guy that could do different things. Vic Burley's out there. So I would say right on the board, there's anywhere between 8 to 10 guys that they're really, really highly considering. It's just, is that number 5 total with edge and interior? Is it 6? How many end up, deciding to come on and be part of the class. So let's go to a YouTube question real quick here. This is from Lee Munger. All right. It says, with the challenges that UGA has had consistently attracting Luther Burden, holding on to Jermaine Burton, top wide receiver talent, should they switch to a more tight end focused passing game? Well, I think that's already there, Lee. Brock Bowers almost became the first, 1,000-yard Georgia receiver since Terrence Edwards. So, I think you're already there, Trent.
Yeah, I mean, I still think they're gonna. I mean, they're not gonna just. They got wide receivers in town that they could be really big playmakers. But when you got Brock Bowers and you got Darnell Washington, you got Eric Gilbert, and Oscar Delp. Yeah, I mean those guys are going to be spotlighted. I mean, how would offense coordinator not do that? So I think you got to play to your strengths year in and year out. And back in 2018 or 17, they played. They had Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. You had to play to those those strengths of your team. You had a freshman quarterback and you had 2 running backs. This year you're going to be loaded with tight ends. Yeah, you gotta get those guys the ball. But I don't think I don't think this is going to hurt Georgia recruiting standpoint at the wide receiver position because whether tight ends or wide receivers catching ball. I think the big thing was Georgia's running team. Well, if you're tossing the ball around, whether it's tight end or wide receiver, I don't think that truly matters to a prospect because it is what it is. But but I do think Georgia will be a tight end heavy team this coming fall.
Yeah, I mean, but I think, Jed, that Kirby Smart at this point, you're in more of those press conferences and things than I am. When it comes to Georgia and their offensive style, I think Kirby Smart views it more as who's making plays, not necessarily what position do they play, but where are our playmakers. He said it over and over with the Stetson Bennett thing. Who gives us the best chance to win? So they want to get playmakers the ball in space, and I think that's why Brock Bowers earned all those targets and catches last year.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of a stupid coaching cliche at a point. Okay, get our best players the ball, but like Trent said, okay, 2017, it's the Nick Chubb and Sony Michel show, right? And then last year you've got Brock Bowers doing things that no tight end's ever done at Georgia before. So, and when it comes to recruiting, okay, say you're a 23 receiver, Kirby Smart can spin it and say, okay, we've got a really deep tight end room. Defenses are going to focus on that. Come here and get one-on-one coverage and beat the man across here and make plays. So you can spin it however you want if you're a coach in recruiting, but I think it all comes down to, I think the bigger question, like you mentioned, Trent, was the run. Like Georgia is a run-first team and always will be. Negative recruiting standpoint that teams use, and now that's kind of been debunked a little bit, and so now we'll see with Brian McClendon on board if they get that elite guy in 23 or looking forward into 24 too.
Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out. But you kind of got the best of both worlds right now when you can go to recruits and say, listen, we need wide receiver. We need elite wide receivers right now. You got to come in and help us. But you can also go to tight ends and say, hey, look at what we're doing with the tight ends right now. So you can play both sides of the story there. All right. Sandbar Bathroom says, is Haynes Wilcox the most likely RB combo in the end, or will Arch committing, if he does, throw a wrench into everything on the offensive side? I think Arch committing to Georgia would be the wild card that changes a lot of things. He's got a great relationship with Ruben Owens, Del McGee, out there recently to see Ruben Owens, even though that Georgia's not been in greatest shape with him. That seems to have transpired here recently. So, when you're talking about they're not giving up on those relationships, like you said, Trent, it's it's keeping up with things because you never know what's going to happen with Texas later on if Ruben does end up there, and then maybe he wants to transfer a year or two down the line. So who knows? But I think Justice Haynes is the main focus. They feel really good about where they're at with Richard Young as well. That would be an unbelievable duo. I don't think it's likely, but Jermaine Wilcox, guys, he doesn't have an offer yet. So until they pull the trigger on the offer, that's something that remains to be seen.
Yeah, and that'll be something that happens if it does happen this summer. But yeah, I do think that if Arch did commit, it could throw a wrench in some offensive linemen, maybe Ruben Owens, definitely some wide receivers. But at the same time, Georgia's got their guys that they're not hanging their hat on. Hey, we need Arch Manning to come for this class to be where it needs to be. I mean, they got their focus on their core wide receivers, their core of offensive linemen, their core running backs. If Arch jumps on, great. You might land a couple guys that you might not if he doesn't jump on, but you're still recruiting the same guys. So it could be a big factor, but I don't think it's going to throw a total wrench into things because a lot of these guys that Arch is got his favorites. His close friends or the guys that might jump on board with him, that they got Georgia's favorites as well. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think there's a select few backs, but Jed, it could be. I think if they do go deeper into the class to take a second back, I do think the guys from the state of Georgia, whether it's Wilcox, whether it's DJ Braswell from down at Waco that came up to visit and got offered by Alabama recently. I think it will be a guy that's in the state of Georgia if they elect to do that.
Yeah, I think Wilcox and Braswell are the two guys you got to watch, which like Trent said, that's going to be something. And just like they've got to come camp for an offer this summer, there could be a guy that's not even on our radar right now that shows up at a camp and blows the staff away that all of a sudden explodes onto the radar too. So
like Andrew Paul got an offer 2 weeks before signing day.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, yeah, that's what I wrote in a story. When's the last time Dale McGee pulled a rabbit out of his hat right before signing day? That hasn't happened since February or last December. So, so it's going to be one of those things that it's the running back is going to be something to watch over the summer, especially just with guys camping and potentially earning offers, all that kind of stuff. Got
some interesting comments here in YouTube. Don't read on me or don't tread on me says, I just don't think Haynes is as great as some thinks he is. Owens is a 5-star. Those are behind him, though. I vehemently disagree. I think Justice Haynes is the total package, not only on the field but off. That young man is put together, has a good head on his shoulders, and is as tough as a pine knot when it comes to running the football. Has tremendous athleticism too. So I think he's very, very good. Randy Gibson says, why don't Georgia recruit speedy wide receivers like Isaiah McKenzie anymore? I think that Aaron Smith, CJ Smith, and who's the wide receiver? And Anthony Evans, Cold Spear, they can all run. They can all run for sure. So they may not be the human joystick, the lateral quickness, but Ladd McConkey's got that pretty well under wraps there, Trent. So I think it's just a matter of the rigged offense was more open and high flying. It was. I mean, people got a little bit. Georgia didn't have a good defense under Mark Richt, but they threw the ball around, son. I mean, they did, and that's what happens.
Yeah. I look back on that year where Aaron Murray was putting up, I think it was mid-40s points per game. They were losing games 48-44 and stuff like that. And I mean, times have changed. If Mark Richt had Kirby Smart's defense, he wins multiple national championships. And that's just, I mean, his offense was just very good, back in the late, I guess 2008, 2000, when you had Matthew Stafford and then you had Aaron Murray come in, and the offenses were very good, averaging a lot more than Georgia averages now because they play a different style of ball. But at the same time, if Georgia just had a defense, back in 2012, if they had a defense, when you had Ogletree and those guys, you beat Alabama, you win the national championship because they were plenty good enough on offense those years.
Yeah, I mean, you look at wide receivers and doing things with wide receivers back then. Tavares King, who I host a show with as well, he finished 50 yards from that 1,000-yard mark his senior season, 950 yards, and he always laments a pass that he dropped for like 48 yards or something. He said so he was real close to the 1,000-yard mark. But yeah, the speed is definitely still there at the wide receiver position. It's just Georgia utilizes it a little bit differently, and we'll see. I mean. And we're leaving out Miko Hardman. I mean, Miko Hardman is pretty fast as well, and he was part of the Kirby Smart era. So, all right, Jed, what we got now?
From Sauce All on Me, when can we pre-order a Manning jersey? Well, if you go to the Colts website, I bet they probably have some you can buy.
Denver, probably still some over in Denver.
Yeah.
The Giants have one too, but they usually burn them. So.
Yeah, they usually burn. Even though that's unwarranted. I mean, Eli Manning, he did some good stuff with the Giants. 2 Super Bowls, man. Can't take that away from him for sure. But Arch, I think that if you're reading the tea leaves, Dylan Lonergan, who was someone that Todd Monken and Buster Faulkner had spent a lot of time with Trent. They weren't just, kicking the tires on him. They were fully vetting him to see if, could he be our guy in the class of 2023? He comes out with a top 5. Georgia's not in it. So that tells me that he knows that Georgia is either 100% totally all in Arch or bust, or that Arch Manning is getting closer and closer to making his way to Georgia. You see all these schools, Holstein, from that was committed to A&M at one point, is now, believed to be in very, very good standing with Alabama. Lonergan had Alabama in his top 5 as well. So you see Marcel Reed, who Georgia had a great relationship, go off the board today with Ole Miss. There's not many of these big-time quarterbacks remaining, Trent, in the class of 2023, and it seems like Texas and Georgia are the two that aren't gonna flinch right now when it comes to the Arch Manning sweepstakes.
Yeah, and I've kind of said this the past couple episodes. I think Georgia's in a position where they can afford to be Arch or bust with what they have on campus. And at the same time, I think Georgia feels really good about where they stand with Arch at this point, and rightfully so. They've got him on campus. They got the relationships. They got everything that the Manning family is looking for in a school. That Texas has the same things, but I think the coaching staff stability of that is something that might weigh heavy at the end, because in 4 years or 3 years or however long Manning's on campus in college, he pretty much knows for sure that Kirby Smart's going to be there. And I'm not sure anybody can predict that at Texas, the way they flip stuff around over there. So I think that's working in Georgia's favor. But yeah, I think Georgia's sitting in a very good spot. And and if at the end of the day he chooses to go elsewhere, I don't think Georgia's in dire need to rush to another decision to pull another quarterback. With what they have on campus and what they showed in the spring game with Carson Beck and with those guys, Brock Vanderveer. You got guys on campus that can make plays and that are former 5 stars or high 4 stars or whatever. So you can take that year off if you need to and focus on 24. But I do like where Georgia stands.
Yeah, and Quinn Ewers is at Texas, and if Quinn Ewers lives up to the hype that everybody says he is, I mean, I know Arch Manning presumably is not going to care who's in front of him and stuff like that, because he is extremely talented. But people are talking about Quinn Ewers being a Patrick Mahomes type talent, like with his arm strength and arm angles and how he's able to deliver the football. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
He might be the richest quarterback to come out of college.
No doubt. Got a quick mill over there at Ohio State, made it back, run down to Austin, Texas, and they're not afraid to shell out the money over there. Thought it was interesting, some math that was put out today. Billy Lucy of Texas Ags put out that Texas A&M was building $200 million worth of new facilities, and they had $170 million already in their pocket. That's 30 million short of what they could have had all up front. I wonder where that other 30 million went. We'll see.
Hey, we didn't spend no money on that class.
That's it. Sliced bread. Don't know what he's talking about.
They're gonna be 100. They're gonna be 60 million short when after this next recruiting class.
That's it, Jed.
Yeah, what's up, dog? If we're fortunate to sign Arch, what are the chances that Brock Vandegrift or Gunnar Stockton will transfer out?
Real high.
And I think one of them could, but I still think you're in a position after this season as it's an open competition. I think a lot will depend on next spring because, you have a quarterback this year. He's graduating, I think.
Maybe.
I'm not really sure, but he's graduating, supposed to for the third time, and then you're going to have an open competition next spring. So whether it's Carson Beck or Vandegrift or Stockton, whoever wins that job, you might see. You're probably going to see one of the others, move on. But you're also, if you throw Arch into that, then you could have 1 year of Beck, then turn it over to Arch, and then you might see them both transfer out. So I think a lot depends on what happens next spring because I think it's just going to be an open competition come next spring for all those quarterbacks.
But Trent, Gunnar Stockton has given his Boy Scouts honor word that he will never ever transfer out of the University of Georgia. So we'll see what ends up happening over there, regardless whether he plays it down or not. So we'll see what ends up happening with these guys. But I think one of them would definitely leave. I mean, what do you come? You're a 5-star quarterback, a former 5-star in Gunnar's case. You come to Georgia. You come to play, right? And that there's only one quarterback on the field, so it's different. And I wouldn't blame any of them one bit if they ended up going out of there because them are the rules. I mean, you can leave now, so and do all that kind of stuff.
Well,
so
one thing that I was kind of pumped up about was Carson Beck choosing not to transfer after the season and throw his hat in that competition this spring. And it looks like he made up a lot of ground. I'm not saying he's going to be the starting quarterback this fall, but he looked very good in the spring game. And just him not choosing just not electing to transfer out right after the season and willing to go and compete for that position. That was fun to see.
And Jed, by all indications, unless Carson Beck were to do something in the next 6 days, I think 6-7 days, which all indications are that he's not. I think he's kind of bought into the idea of, okay, even if I have to play one more year behind Stetson Bennett, I'm going to be really, really well positioned to be the guy after that. And I think he believes in the cast that he's going to have around him. And you talk about, there's a segment of the Georgia fan base that loves Stetson Bennett for his story and what he did. You talk about the chance to be a beloved hero if you're Carson Beck by staying loyal and sticking it out and becoming the starter that way. He would endear himself to the red and black faithful greatly.
Yeah, I mean, everybody loves DJ Shockley now, right? Because he sat around behind David Green for all those years and got his chances when they came in the 2005, he won the SEC championship. So, if Beck hasn't transferred by now, it kind of doesn't seem like he's going to, because why would you at this point? You go through this 2022 season as the backup and come in if Stetson gets hurt. And then, like you said, Trent, it's an open competition next spring. May the best man win. And then if Beck loses that competition and wants to go elsewhere, then more power to him. At least he gave his best shot in Athens. And then, he goes on his way after that.
And Beck would have a leg up in that competition just for the time that he's been in the system. Mm-hmm. So that's another, big thing to watch. So, I like the fact that he stuck it out. I like how he looked in the spring game, and I think he's got a big arm. And George Pickens elected to have him as his quarterback at the NFL Pro Day. So, that's a
Gary Sullivan watching us from Bainbridge, hometown of Kirby Smart. We appreciate you tuning in, Gary. And everybody, if you don't already, that's a good point to bring up. Subscribe, like this video, share it with friends. If you just hit the share button and take it to Facebook, take it to Twitter, that greatly helps us out. So we really appreciate it. Got a few more questions here that we'll go through. Maverick 4040. Hear any names of interest for portal additions? I haven't heard any of late. I know they were in on the receiver from Louisville that, they had at least kicked the tires receiver from Louisville that ended up going to Alabama. I know that people are tired to hearing that said as well because, Jahmyr Gibbs, it appeared there was back channeling there, but he ended up going to Alabama. So it's, nobody imminent right now, but we'll learn a lot here in the next 3 or 4 days because, one, Jed, Georgia is well over the 85 right now. I think they're at 89 or 90, something along those lines of scholarship. So they would have to see several subtractions off this roster before they'd be able to add anybody.
I was told when I took this job there would be no math, and clearly I was lied to.
That's a lie because you're going to be asked how many Georgia's going to take 100 times.
So that's something I'll take up with Roddy later. But no, it's something that is talked about on the board a lot, and I guess all we can really say at this point is that it's going to happen. The subtractions you mentioned, Blaine, the portal additions, whether it's a safety, another receiver.
I think it's a safety, a true guy that can be a plug and play type receiver right away, and an edge guy, or really maybe an experienced interior defensive lineman, but that or a linebacker. But those would be the main focuses there.
Yeah. So I guess all we really know at this point is that it is going to happen, and it's with the calendar the way it is, it's got to happen soon. But it's anybody's guess really when all this stuff's going to become official.
Yeah, I mean, with NIL now, I'm sure there's going to be these financial advisors and managers that these guys have that all of a sudden, before May 1st, start getting some phone calls, and then you might see some names pop in the portal. So that's just how it works these days, guys. There is nobody that's lily white in this deal. I'm just telling you, everybody, it's all over the place with this NIL and things like that now. So it's going to happen. There's going to be guys that pop into the portal, guys that aren't even in there yet that Georgia's going to have interest in. So just be patient on that. By May 1st, it'll all shake out with who the options are at least. And then lastly, Pine Tree kind of follows up on that saying, is Bama going to leave any good portal players for anyone else? They certainly have cleaned up Trent, but they got to, even Saban can't get around the scholarship limit. So eventually they're going to have to be out unless he just, starts telling players to leave.
Yeah. And I think this is a big, how things have changed. I know the whole recruiting landscape have changed, but you saw those true freshmen come in for Alabama last year, and or those younger wide receivers come in when their big guys went down, like Jameson Williams, and I think Saban could see it that, hey, these guys are not up to par to be able to, Bryce Young needs more weapons next year, I guess I'd say, and he went out and got some weapons for Bryce Young, and yes, they landed. What's his name down at LSU from LSU? But yes, they've cleaned up.
Elias Ricks.
But at the same time, I think that is a thing of how this recruiting has changed and how Kirby has kind of, I guess out recruited him at times over the past 4 or 5 years, where Alabama didn't have that challenge on the recruiting trail, before Kirby took over at Georgia. So I think Kirby's done a great job recruiting. I think he's got guys, ready to go in place. And I think, you'll see him fill a couple holes like he did, last year at cornerback. But I don't think you'd see as much movement in the portal, just for the simple fact that they've been able to recruit at a higher level and retain some of these guys like your Amarius Mims and, Darnell Washington, I guess, up to this point.
Yeah. And, the receiver from Louisville, I think Harrell's his last name. I'm not as schooled with that but with Harrell and Burton being there, Sure. Does Alabama maybe have a higher ceiling on a couple of those guys at top end? But I think you could easily argue that with the receivers that Georgia has returning and the young guys that are starting to step up, like the Jackson Meeks and things like that, plus that tight end room, they've got as many weapons or more weapons than Alabama has. And that, to your point, Trent, that's because of the recruiting that's been done in the past.
Yeah, and I still think Arian Smith is a guy who could just have a breakout monster year as one of those guys who could put up, 700, 800 yards. In
Unlike 12 catches.
Yeah, I mean, and this is a guy who averages like 74 yards a catch. I mean, just throw the ball up to him. So if he could ever play a full season, which maybe this coming season is the year, he could be that breakout guy. I mean, similar to this Louisville guy but you hear more about this guy because he is he has done it. He has put up the stats, and but I think Arian Smith can be every bit of a weapon for this Georgia offense if he can just stay healthy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Jed, any closing thoughts? We're getting close to wrapping up here. Anything coming up that we got for people over on UGA Sports you're going to be working on soon?
Hopefully, I'm going to have a story on Justyn Rhett for you guys soon. But it's one of those things where we got to start getting out on the road soon. So I'm planning to go see Caleb Downs tomorrow over at Mill Creek, and maybe a Madden Sanker on Wednesday. So, and then it's going to be summertime, and then officials are going to get started again, and camps and all that kind of stuff. So, stay tuned.
Yeah, that first weekend in June, I know Justice Haynes is coming in. I think CJ Allen will be in town.
Jamal Jarrett's official that weekend.
And we did talk about. I did say we were going to talk about who's kind of next. Maybe guys that if you had to go out on a limb and say guys that you think are close to committing, guys that you could be on the watch for. I know Georgia's in a good spot with a guy like a Daniel Harris. I know that Georgia obviously works really, really hard on trying to get Jonell Aguero. I know LSU and Alabama are working hard there as well, but he's a guy that Georgia has felt they've been in great shape with throughout things. It'll be interesting to see, does Justice Haynes make it out of that official visit with Georgia without committing to Georgia? I mean, because that they're going to pull out all the stops there. So we'll see what happens there. Trent, any guys that you got that maybe we should keep an eye on here coming up, or maybe Hakeem Williams? I mean, he keeps showing up at Georgia. I know he's got a official visit set up in June sometime with Pitt, but it seems like him and Anthony Evans are two wide receivers to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, I mean, besides Arch Manning and I'm just
Trent keeps subtly hitting at Arch Manning.
We're not talking about silent commits. We're talking about guys who could commit soon.
I just want people to get Trent Smallwood trending on Twitter because Trent Smallwood predicts that Arch Manning is going to Georgia.
It hit the vault. It hit the vault in less than 25 seconds last week. So
that's it. Let's get it on Twitter. Hashtag Trent says Arch to Georgia.
I'm interested to see these Georgia guys, like in-state guys, coming in this summer that, I guess some of them will count for an offer, but then you got guys like Justice Haynes and Madden Sanker and guys like that will come in for visits this summer, and I'm interested to see if they will leave that visit or, shortly after without committing to Georgia because, Georgia has their top guys on board, but they also, they also preach about, hey, we're going to fill up spots. We're going to fill up spots. And, yeah, guys like Justice Haynes will have a spot to the end. But a lot of these guys want to jump on board because they like to get these in-state guys in as recruiters and to start, recruiting for the staff. So it'll be interesting to see if any of these in-state guys, the guys I mentioned, leave uncommitted.
Yeah, and I think they'll have some of their guys that have been the leaders in the class, like a Pierce Sperlin, a Raymond Cottrell, that'll be in there that during that first weekend of official visits. So it will be interesting to see how all that transpires. But guys, that is this episode of UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts. For we do this every Monday night at 8:15. So for Trent Smallwood and Jed May, I am Blaine Gilmer, and we will catch you guys next time.